Hey guys, it's LilyHarvord. I know it has been absolutely freaking forever since I last updated, and that was my blog, which was impressive. But I got a new camera. It's my iPad, and I'm filming with a brand new iPad, and it is amazing, and the resolution is absolutely cool, so you can see everything, including the acne on my face, which you were not able to see before. And you can actually see the titles of the books behind me. It's very exciting. Isn't it wonderful, audience? Clap for the iPad. Yay! Okay, so today I'm not actually going to be doing a book review. I'm doing a movie review for a movie that I saw with my friend called Warm Bodies. Now, Warm Bodies came out a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty much like a zombie movie, but it's like a romantic comedy, and how you mix that in a zombie movie, I don't know, but these people did it. And so, it's directed by the guy who did 50/50, so you kind of expect this to be pretty funny. Going into this, I watched Jeremy Jan's review, and he said it was okay, you know, it was not, but he's a guy, and this is probably meant to be a chick flick. So, going into this, I kind of went, okay, it's a zombie movie. I'm not very fond of zombie movies. I can't do zombie movies. I just can't. I see those creepy frickin' zombies running at me in Call of Duty, and I panic and run the other way. I can't do that stuff. I'm not cut out for that. But I come into this movie, and the first thing we see is him walking through an airport going, "Hi, I don't know what my name is, and I live in the airport." And he's just narrating. And for a zombie movie to be narrated by a zombie, it's pretty funny, and it's from the entire point of view of a zombie. And so, and it's comedic, too, the way he narrates, because he doesn't, like, I don't know, he doesn't, like, say stupid stuff. He says, like, funny stuff where you're like, I could see a guy thinking that, you know? And the entire movie surrounds him trying to go after this girl who's human, and it's hilarious. And for those of you who don't know, the guy who plays the zombie is the same guy who plays Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk, the new Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack the Giant Slayer movie. He is the same guy, and he is absolutely so cute. Even as a zombie, he's good looking. Come on, ladies. English men dressed as zombies, we love them. So it follows the story of a the movie follows the story of a zombie named R. He doesn't remember his name, and he pretty much is a zombie. And we are introduced in the very beginning, we're introduced to these things called bonies, and it's what a zombie becomes when it loses hope or something. And you know that the moment they're on the screen, that they are the sole purpose for when the zombies and humans team up later to fight. Because if the humans are teamed up with the zombies and they're fighting the zombies, it doesn't make sense, right? Obviously not. So you know the bonies exist only to be the enemy of the zombies. And so R pretty much he's funny because he's kind of more human than the other zombies. He thinks, and he, like, technically speaks. He can sort of speak in a way. He can, like, grunt and say words like, kind of thing. That's all he really does in the beginning. And he has a buddy who's his friend, and there's a part where they're sitting at this airport bar, and they're talking. They're not really talking, they're grunting at each other, and he's like, "We almost had a full conversation yesterday." And they're grunting at each other, and you can't help but laugh, because it sounds so idiotic. But it's funny. And then, pretty much, they decide they're hungry, so they're going to go into the city and find some humans. And that's when we meet our main heroine character, who is pretty much, whose name is Julie, and I think it's Julie. Yeah, it's Julie. She pretty much is the daughter of the guy who runs the whole settlement. They built a giant wall. I don't know what city it's in. It could be Chicago. It could be New York. It's just a big city, since all zombie movies have to take place in a big city. Am I right? It could be Los Angeles for all I know. And so, R and his buddies are doing this swag walk with this epic music behind them as they're walking. And as it's fading out to go to the girl, he says, "Man, we walk slow. This could take a while." And then we go over to the girl. And it's funny because as you're sitting there in zombie movies, you normally look at the zombies and goes, "Pfft, they walk so frickin' slow," you know? And then he notices that they walk slow. And so that's why it's so funny, because you're like, everything I know about zombie movies is wrong. And then, so, back to the actual storyline. So he's walking to the city, and while he's walking to the city, Juliet and her buddies are getting ready to go out and get some supplies for the colony of humans left. They go out, and she has a boyfriend. His name's Pay. I'm pretty sure it's either Pay or Peyton. It might be Pay. I just know they call him Pay for some weird reason, so I'm sure it's Peyton. And so they go hiking out, right? They're out this, like, science-y medical place, and they're taking stuff to make medicine and whatnot. And R and his buddies show up and just freaking kick down the door, right? And you're like, zombies shouldn't be able to do that. It's a metal door, right? And so they bust down the door, right? And pretty much they're trying to eat everybody, and they are eating everybody. And then R's just strolling through, right? And then freaking Peyton's up on a counter, goes, pew, shoots him. And he just turns around and goes, you did not just fucking shoot me. And just attacks him. It's like a freaking bitch fight on the floor. He's like eating his brains and crap. And he's like, he looks at us and he literally narrates his part, and he says, I'd rather you not watch this. And so we go over to Juliet, and Julie is like kicking some serious ass with her gun, right? But she runs out of ammo. And so she's like, screw this, and just starts swinging this thing like a bat. And you're like, wow, okay, that's totally unrealistic, right? Well, maybe it is pretty realistic. But, so, then R goes, and then we learn this new part about zombies that, you know, technically, I wouldn't even think of, where they have to eat if they eat the brains, they get the memories of the person. And so, and R describes it as being human again. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, you know, I never knew that. And so, he eats the brains, and he sees Peyton's memories, and he sees this guy he figures out that Julie is Peyton's girlfriend, and he eventually stops eating the brains, comes back to reality, and realizes, whoa, she's hot, right? And so he goes, you know, I like her. I'm going after her. And so she's and her buddy are the only ones alive, and her buddy's hiding under a table. And Julie's like, oh shit, right? Because this zombie is just walking right at her. Straight at her. Not running, walking. And so she's like crouching down, right? Like, oh god, please don't eat me. And he bends down and looks her in the eye, right? And goes, shh. And she's like, ah. You know, she's like starting to cry. And so he takes some blood from her boyfriend and wipes it on her cheek and goes, safe. She's like, okay, I'm safe. Okay. And so he helps her up, and they make this, like, group around her, and they walk her out of the building. And it's like, okay, technically that's realistic, but not really logical, because I'm pretty sure a little smear of blood is not going to mask the scent of human and life and blood going through your veins. And so he takes her back to the airport, and he puts her in his little plane that he has that is like his home. It's very cute, actually. And it's got like all these cool knickknacks that he's collected. It's very funny. He like collects stuff, and she's all like, what the hell are you? Right? And he's like, I have no idea. Right? And he sits there, and the entire time he's like narrating this part, because he's sitting there, and they sit in these two plane seats together, and he looks at her, and he's just staring at her, right? And she looks over, and he's like, don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. Oh, you're being creepy. And he looks the other way. And it's so cute because it almost gives you insight as a girl into what a guy thinks. And it gives you insight into what a zombie thinks, but not really. And she tries to escape because she doesn't want to be there. And he rescues her and brings her back. And when she tries to escape a second time, after they've been buddies, you know, they've buddied up a little bit. They've played some music together. They've rocked out. She's kind of taught him to drive. They escape, and he starts to feel his heart beating again. So he's becoming, like, human, I guess you could say. He's becoming living again. And so she tries to escape again, and he goes, oh shit, right? Gets up, and she's in the airport trying to take on all these zombies around her, and he's like, no! And he's, like, attacking his buddies and whatnot. And then his friend, who he had a conversation with earlier in the movie, goes, what are you doing, dude? You know, and he's, like, trying to protect her and whatnot. And then a Boney shows up. Now, we learned earlier in the movie that Bonies eat anything with a heartbeat. So, they don't care if you smell dead. Because guess what? You have a heartbeat, and they're gonna eat you. And so they see her, and he's like, we better run. So they take off, and these bonies are taking off after them. And this was the part in the movie where I kind of went, oh god, if this is going to turn into one of those movies. You know, and by one of those movies, I mean a movie where it's just an absolute chase scene. I hate movies like that, because then eventually they leap off a bridge and whatnot. Well, they find a car, but on the way there, his buddy shows up. Right, and his buddy helps him get the girl to the car. They show up to the car garage, and a group of zombies is in front of the car, and he takes her hand, and all of a sudden they're just like, okay, alright, and they separate, part like the Red Sea, and he just goes to the car. They get in the car, they start driving, run some bonies over, keep going, right, and all the zombies are sitting there going, what the hell is wrong with him? Right? And so they get out, and they're driving, it's raining, then it's not raining, then they go to a suburb place, and they stay the night, and this is another one of the funny parts that I don't really want to spoil for you guys, because it's hilarious. And I'm not going to tell you what happens at the house, because that's just funny, and you're going to have to watch it. But he tells her, she has no idea that he ate her boyfriend. And eventually R goes, you know, I ate your boyfriend. And she's like, okay, right? And then she rolls over and goes to sleep, and he's like, oh, she hates me, right? And we learned earlier from R that zombies don't dream. But then after, when he closes his eyes, and he goes to sleep, and he dreams. And that's when we start figuring out, you know, what's happening to R. We start realizing that R is becoming human. He's living again. His heart's beating every so often, and he's dreaming like a living person. And when he wakes up, Julie's gone. She's just gone. Car's gone, she's gone, everything's gone. And he's like, oh. And so he kind of gets up and leaves, and he's all depressed. And she's driving to the city, right, to be with her dad and her like psychopath military dad who will shoot a zombie in the head if he ever sees it. And R's walking the other way, right, back to the airport. Well, meanwhile, back at the mattress factory, the airport, the zombies start to feel. They start to become living too. And they get chased out by the bonies. And so R kind of meets up with them. And he's all like, you know, I really wish I wasn't feeling anymore. I don't want to be like this. I'd rather not feel. I'd rather be a bony and blah, 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 blah. Because he hates life now because the girl left him and he feels bad. And he sucks. And life is horrible because that's what life is. And that's reality, actually. And so he gets back and he meets up with them. And they come together under a bridge and they're talking. And I'm not going to tell you this part because this is another one of those hilarious parts where you go, are you serious? That is so not what would happen in a zombie movie. But it's funny because you're like, that's so not going to happen ever. And then eventually, so they decide to go help him find Julie. So they're going to the city, and it's that moment where you have the badass guys in the army with the guns walking. You got the badass, like, AC/DC music in the background. They're rocking out as they're walking, right? And it's like slow motion because they're zombies. And they get a badass theme song as they're going, and it's just as they're walking to the city to get to the wall. It is so funny because you're just like, they're zombies, and they get a theme song and an awesome badass slow walk scene. That's awesome. Well, meanwhile, Julie ends up back in her little place, and she's all like, you know, I kind of miss him, you know, I kind of miss him. And her best friend, who got away, also goes, are you in love with a zombie? Now, for those of you who saw Pitch Perfect, if you remember the girl who was the slut, technically, I can't remember her name, but she was the one that was always touching herself and whatnot. This is the same actress, and she is the same hilarious funny as she was in Pitch Perfect. So eventually, R gets there, and he sneaks in through the subway and gets into the place and finds Julie's house. while he's, like, sneaking through this place, he's a zombie, and he's sneaking through an earth, like, a living person place, and he's going through, and there's this guy herding some goats, and one of the goats stops and sniffs him, and he's like, go away, go away, go away, and the goat's like, man, and it just runs the other way, and he's like, oh, thank God, and he just, like, takes off the other direction, in his, like, slow zombie-like walk run, and then he gets to her house, and she's on the balcony, and he goes, Julie, and she looks down, and she goes, you know, there's a freaking zombie in my yard. And he's like, hi. And she's like, oh God. Right? And her friend's like, who you talking to? You know, and her friend shows up and goes, oh my God, is that him? Yep. And then they bring him inside, and they're sitting there, and the friend is just questioning him like a freaking police interrogator, goes, how old are you? You know, and we see this scene in the trailer, but we don't see all the parts of the interview, and so I'm not going to give it away. And so he tells them what he's feeling, and that the Bonies are coming for him and Julie. And so he says, you know, I'm starting to feel alive again, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, you are. You know, blah, blah, blah. And so they decide they have to tell Julie's dad, but in order to get to Julie's dad, they have to, like, make him look alive. So they put makeup on him, and they make him take a shower, and when he gets out finally, the friend goes, holy shit, you're hot. Right? It's just funny, because you don't expect this to happen in a zombie movie. To tell the truth, this movie could not make up its mind what it wanted to be. And I'm going to touch on that after I finish. And so they end up going, and they show her dad him, and then Julie they're sitting there, and Julie's dad goes, I'm gonna shoot you, asshole, right? Freaking military guy, I'm badass like that, you know? And her, like, and she's like, no, Daddy, don't, no, you know? And he's like, and so her friend just goes, put the gun down, right? And her friend's got a gun that we thought she was gonna shoot R with, but no, she's gonna probably shoot the dad with it. And the dad goes, and so Julie and R escape, and her dad goes, you wouldn't shoot me with that. And the girl's like, you're right, I probably won't. So they're running through the subway, right, to find R's buddies, his zombie buddies, and they get there, and there's this huge crowd of frickin' zombies, right? And Julie's just going, and you see R's friend, because it pans up to a wide shot, and his friend's like, excuse me, his friend's like, going through the crowd, like, pardon me, like, and he's got this, like, zombie voice, so it's, like, gruff and kind of like, excuse me, pardon me, so it's just hilarious, because you're watching him, like, move his way through the crowd, and it's a polite zombie, come on, tell me that's not funny. And so he gets to the front, and he's like, the Bonies are here, and sure enough, pans up to the ceiling, which is a glass dome, and the Bonies are, like, freaking banging their fists on it, coming through, and you're like, I already know where this is going, right? And I felt like the final battle was really quickly wrapped in, like, they were kind of like, okay, you know, we already touched on the story, R's becoming human, let's just throw a big-ass fight scene in it, right? So the Bonies fall in, and they're fighting, and R and Julie just take off, because they gotta escape, right? They gotta get away. And so they're getting away, and the military, Julie's dad, shows up, and they're chasing after them too, and they show up in the dome area, right? And all the zombies and Bonies are kicking ass, right? The freaking zombies are just kicking ass, and R's friend, like, freaking smacks one against his knee, and it, like, shatters, and you're like, that's awesome, right? And they're like, sir, on the radio, sir, the corpses are fighting skeletons, right? And one of the guys goes, what do we shoot? And then one of the zombies hucks a frickin' Bonie at them, and they shoot the Bonie, and it's like, shoot that asshole. And then, this is one of those other hilarious parts that was just kind of thrown in to make fun of zombie movies. And it's, the zombie, they're running into the fight, and the zombie goes, how you doing? To every single one of them as they come by, and you're cracking up, because that's not gonna happen, ever. And then it goes back to Julie and R, and they're running, they're gonna get away. They get cornered by some zombies on a ledge that is above a fountain, like a kind of aqueduct kind of thing. And so she's like, we're gonna die. He's like, no, we're not. So he grabs her, turns around, pulls a frickin' Bella Swan from Twilight, and frickin' falls off the thing, and the Bonies are just like, oh, fuck you! You know? And they're falling, and they fall for like 3 minutes. And then they hit the water, and they're going down, and then he smacks his head on the bottom, right? And she gets up, and she's like, "Arr!" You know, flipping out, and she pulls him back up, and he's okay, and she kisses him. Yep, that's right. She kisses him. Now, this is a major spoiling, because I'm going to give away the ending here, so I'm going to just give away the ending for you guys, because the ending's awesome. So, pretty much, what happens is R becomes fully human. He is a human again. He is living! And pretty much, the dad shows up and shoots him. Points a gun and just shoots. And so R's gushing blood, right, because it shot his chest. Right, and she's like, no, Dad, see, he's bleeding, he's not dead, he's bleeding! And they're all like, whoa, that guy's alive, you know? Like, just like, all the military guys put their guns down, they're like, we're not shooting a living person, you know? And the dad's like, oh, okay, you're not a zombie, okay. So all the zombies by now are kind of coming to life, and they're all coming back to life. The Bonies run away, and they get shot or killed, and you infer in the end that they're all dead. All the Bonies are dead, you infer. And R kind of touches on that, because as they're driving back in the Jeep, the dad, Julie, and R, they're driving, and the dad's talking, and the dad goes, you're still bleeding back there, right? And R's like, yeah. And he's like, good. And it's funny, because it's meant to be kind of like, that kind of like dad hating the boyfriend relationship. And R, then we get a little bit last narration from R, and R is like, it hurt to get shot in the chest. Okay, a lot. And it's supposed to be funny, his narrations, and it's a lot funnier coming from him than from me. And they get back, and all the Bonies are inferred to be dead, and zombies are all starting to come back to life, you know, and whatnot. And the end of the movie is pretty much the zombies being cured, the zombies living among people, and there's a funny scene with a zombie trying to play baseball with somebody and getting hit in the chest with the ball every single time because it can't catch it. And then it finally catches it, and then it throws it and puts it in, like, Nebraska. and finally, pretty much, they break down the wall, and everybody remembers their names but R, and so R decides to be R. And the end of the movie is just him and Julie being happy together and the wall coming down. Okay. What is this movie on a scale of 1 to 10? As a date night movie, I'm going to rate this on 2 scales. On a girl scale and a guy scale. On a girl scale, this movie is about an 8. 8.5. Because it had funny dialogue, a hot zombie actor. Come on, really, guys? How good can it get? Hot zombie actor. Come on. It's got funny dialogue, hot zombie actor. It's got a great cast. It's funny. It's romantic. It's good for girls. For guys, this movie's about a 7. It's not that good for guys, because guys kind of look at it and they go, oh, it's romance. But it's funny, because it's got cussing, and it's badass guys shooting zombies. Funny stuff, you know? And for guys. So, on a scale altogether on 1 to 10, this movie is about a 7.5. So, it's good. And, yeah. So this movie is a 7.5. I personally loved it. I came out of the movie thinking that was worth $20, which I apparently paid, I think. I was like, you know, that was worth $20. That was pretty worth it. Now, upcoming movies that I'm excited about seeing and doing reviews for are obviously Ender's Game. I am so freaking excited for Ender's Game. I don't know if I'm going to see The Host. I didn't really like the book, so I don't know if I'll see the movie, although Imagine Dragons is in the trailer, so I'm obviously going to go see that, just to hear the music, possibly. So yeah, just keep up with my channel, subscribe, go see some movies, and if you guys would actually listen to me at the end. I have a question for you. What is your absolute favorite comedy zombie movie? Be it Shaun of the Dead, if you saw Warm Bodies and you liked it, Warm Bodies. Whatever funny zombie movie or zombie movie that you love, post it in the comments. Tell me what you guys thought. Okay, guys, that's all I got. So until next time, LilyHarvord out.